Hi everyone, it's Laurel and welcome to day 2. Yesterday we named the cost of drift, the tolerance trap, the autopilot effect, how not that bad quietly becomes your ceiling. If you haven't watched the launch session and day 1 yet, the replays are waiting for you, but you don't need them to get value from today, because today we turn the camera around. Yesterday was about what drift costs you. Today is about you, not the you on paper, the CV, the roles, the responsibilities, the you underneath that, how you're actually built, how you're wired to move, and why so much of the advice you've followed over the years, good advice, sensible advice, advice that genuinely worked for someone, never quite fit. Look at the subtitle on this slide because it's the whole session in one line, why so much advice never fit you and how you're actually built to move. Here's where we're going. First, we get a structured, honest view of where you are right now, your flow score, your archetype, your 4 pillars. Then we look at how you're wired to move using your design. And then we look at what's actually been keeping you stuck, the 2 fears underneath your number and the one small shift that starts to change it. Live on purpose, not on autopilot. Let's go. Read this slide with me because everything today hangs off it. Diagnosis precedes recalibration. You can't recalibrate a life you don't yet understand. I always say it's like a business review. Before you'd make any strategic change in a business, any restructure, any new direction, you'd look at the data first. You'd never redesign a company based on a vague feeling that things were a bit off. You'd audit it. You'd find out exactly where the value is leaking. Your life deserves the same discipline. We audit our businesses every quarter and never audit our lives. We measure revenue, pipeline, performance, and then run our own well-being on guesswork and gut feel. Most people skip this step, they feel the drift and they jump straight to change. New habit, new plan, new program. And it doesn't hold, not because they lack willpower, but because they were treating the wrong thing. They lacked a diagnosis, not ambition. So today, before we change anything, we look quick bridge from day 1, because these 2 sessions are one thought. Yesterday, the tolerance trap, the autopilot effect, how you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your standards. And whatever you're willing to tolerate becomes your life. That was the outside view, what drift does. Today's question is different. It isn't what should I change? That question keeps you spinning because there are 100 possible answers and no way to choose between them. Today's question is, who am I built to be and why has so much advice never fit me? Because I bet money that you've tried, you've read the books, you've done the morning routines, you've followed advice that genuinely worked for the person who gave it, and some of it stuck for a fortnight and then quietly fell away and you blamed yourself. Hold that thought. We'll come back to it. First, where are you right now? This is where we start, the balance reset. It's a short diagnostic, a couple of minutes, multiple choice that looks at the 4 pillars of your life: mind, body, relationships, and purpose. At the end, you get a structured view of where you are across all 4, where your life is aligned, where it isn't, and where it needs attention first. The link is on the screen, Balance AI/Reset. If you haven't taken it yet, do it today. Honestly, if you can, do it now while we're together. Open the link on your phone, start it, and let it run alongside the session. Because everything we do this week builds on your result. Tomorrow's session, the day after, they all assume you have your score and your archetype in front of you. When you finish the reset, you get a number between 0 and 100, your flow score. And I want to be really careful about how you hear this number because most of us have spent decades being graded, and the instinct is to see any score as a verdict. It isn't. Your flow score is a floor, not a grade. It's built from your 4 pillars and your consistency of action. And here's the part 1 love about how we've designed it. Your reset score becomes your floor. It never drops below it. It only climbs from here as you take action. Think about what that means. Every graded system you've ever been in could take the number away, the performance review, the exam, the metric that reset to 0 every quarter. This doesn't work like that. The score exists to show you where to begin, and then it exists to show you moving. So if your number comes back lower than you'd like, nothing has gone wrong. That number isn't who you are. It's where you're starting from. And knowing where you're starting from is the single most powerful piece of information you can have, because you can only grow from where you are, not from where you wish you were. This isn't a verdict, it's a starting point. Alongside your score, you get an archetype. There are 5, and they map to the 5 stages of the balance method: drift, reset, design, systems, alignment. And before I walk you through them, the most important sentence on this slide, this is where you are on the journey, not who you are forever. It's designed to move. As your score climbs, your archetype climbs with it. The explorer, 0 to 29, is in drift. If this is you, you're restless, curious, dissatisfied. Something in you has recognized that something needs to change, even if you couldn't yet say what. And I want you to hear this clearly because explorers are often the hardest on themselves. This stage matters. This is the stage of awareness, and awareness always comes before intention. You cannot skip it. Most people never reach it. They stay comfortable enough, distracted enough, busy enough that the recognition never lands. Yours has landed. That's not failure. That's the beginning. The seeker 30 to 44 is at reset. You've started asking deeper questions. What actually matters? Is the life I'm building aligned with who I want to become? Am I moving forward or just staying busy? This is a stage of reflection, and I won't pretend it's comfortable. It can feel deeply uncertain. But it's powerful because the moment you begin questioning your direction, you gain the ability to redesign it. The clarifier 45 to 59 is at design. Clarifiers have begun deciding what truly matters. You've started identifying your values, your priorities, your deeper motivations, and instead of reacting to life, you're beginning to direct it. That clarity changes everything. When you know what matters, decision-making becomes dramatically easier. Every choice stops being a 50-50 coin toss and starts being a simple question. Does this serve what I've decided matters? The builder 60 to 74 is at systems. You're turning clarity into action. You're shaping your life intentionally through habits, boundaries, priorities, systems. Instead of drifting, you're building, and the process becomes visible. Other people start noticing. The architect 75 to 100 is at alignment. Architects are designing life deliberately, daily action, reflecting on deeper priorities, protecting energy, investing in relationships, pursuing meaningful goals, making intentional decisions. When life is no longer reactive, it becomes designed. Now, wherever you land on this, many deeply capable, intelligent people are stuck between stages. And it is not because you lack ambition, it's because you've lacked a diagnosis. That's the whole reason the reset exists. Underneath your score and your archetype sit the 4 pillars, and this is where the reset gets genuinely useful because a single number can't tell you where to act. The pillars can. Look at the example on screen because this is a real pattern I see constantly. Mind 90, body 90. This woman is sharp, disciplined, exercises, eats well, reads, performs. From the outside, she's thriving. She's the person other people describe as sorted. Purpose 63. Moderate. Work pays well and looks right, but the why has gone a bit quiet. She couldn't tell you the last time it lit her up. Relationships 35. Needs attention. And there it is. You can have 2 pillars at 90 and still feel that something is fundamentally off because life isn't lived in your strongest pillar. The strong pillars are usually strong precisely because that's where all the energy has been going. The whole picture matters. The reset will show you your version of this, where your life is aligned, where it isn't, and where it needs attention first. Because once you can see the pattern, you can change it. Here's the reframe that changes how you use that information. Your lowest pillar isn't your failure, it's your ripple point. The 4 pillars aren't separate, they're one system. Strengthen the weakest one and it lifts the other 3. Let it keep leaking and it quietly drags the other 3 down, no matter how hard you work on them. That's why we don't try to fix everything at once. Fixing everything at once is how every January plan dies. You overhaul the whole life, run on willpower for 3 weeks and collapse back to baseline. We don't do overhauls here. We start where the ripple is biggest. 1 pillar, the lowest one. That's your leverage point, and it's usually the one you've been avoiding, for reasons we'll get to before the end of this session. The reset also surfaces something subtler than a score, your dominant pattern. The loop running quietly underneath your days. Every pattern has the same 3-part structure, a focus where your energy goes, a meaning, the story you tell yourself about it, and an action, what you actually do as a result. Take the example on screen, the disconnected pattern, and it belongs to the woman we just met with relationships at 35. Her focus, work and individual tasks. The meaning she's assigned. Relationships will wait. The action that follows, isolation or surface level connection. And watch what happens next, because this is how one weak pillar leaks into the others. The isolation feeds turning further inward, Turning inward feeds taking less care of herself. That feeds overworking, which loops straight back to the focus that started it, round and round, quietly, for years. The loop isn't a character flaw. It's just a pattern, running on repeat, unexamined. And a pattern you can see is a pattern you can interrupt. Let's pause. Which is your weakest pillar right now, and where is it quietly leaking into the others? Don't rush this. Don't answer with the pillar you think you should say. Answer with the one that made your stomach tighten slightly when I read the list. Whatever came up, write it down. We're coming back to it at the end. Now, back to the thought I asked you to hold at the start. All that good advice that never quite stuck. Here's why. 1. You overcorrect in the wrong area. Without a diagnosis, you act on the pillar that's easiest to see or most socially rewarded. Another fitness plan, another productivity system, while the pillar that's actually leaking sits untouched. Effort in the wrong place feels like progress and change is nothing. 2. You chase motivation instead of structure. Motivation is weather. It comes, it goes, and it's usually gone by Thursday. Structure is climate. Everything we build this week is structure. 3. You mistake busyness for progress. And this one is cultural, not personal. There is enormous pressure on us to stay busy, keep moving, do more, be constantly on. Whole systems are built on it, and social media tells us daily that we should be doing all of it at once. But busy is not the same as forward. You can be in motion for a decade and not move an inch towards a life that fits. And underneath all three, the deeper reason, the one almost nobody names, most advice was built for someone else's wiring. The 5 a.m. routine worked for the person who wrote the book. The hustle worked for the person selling the course. It wasn't wrong, it was theirs. Read this slide slowly. It's not that you're not trying hard enough, it's that you've been following someone else's map. I said something adjacent to this yesterday about comparison, how crippling it is. When we look at other people's maps, we lose sight of our own. We lose where we actually are and what we actually need to do. So we're done with other people's maps. Let's look at yours. This is where your design comes in, and I want to frame it precisely because this is where people either dismiss it or overclaim it, and both miss the point. We use human design as operating style, not destiny, not purpose. Your design tells you how, not what. What your life is for is yours to design. That's later this week, and no chart gets to decide it for you. What your design tells you is how you're built to get there, where you naturally flow, and where you've been forcing. Think of it as the difference between the destination and the vehicle. You choose the destination. Your design just tells you what kind of engine you're driving, so you stop revving it like it's a different one. And that word, forcing, is the one I want you to hold for the next 10 minutes. Because most stuck isn't laziness, most stuck is forcing. Here's why this matters so much. In one picture, 2 women, identical flow score, both stuck in drift. Same starting point, same number, same archetype. Any generic program would hand them the same plan. The first is a generator, a builder, as it's sometimes called. She climbs out of drift by responding to a genuine hell yes and dropping the hell no's. Forcing herself to initiate from a blank page just drains her. I know this one from the inside because it's my design. When I'm working on something that genuinely lights me up, it fills me up. I have more energy at the end of the day than the start. And when I'm pushing through a project I know isn't filling me up, the drain is total, not tiredness, depletion. My design didn't tell me what to build. It told me why some work made me feel unstoppable and other work, objectively similar, flattened me. The second woman is a projector. Her way out is the opposite. She climbs out by stopping the hustle and waiting for the right invitation. When she pushes, she only creates resistance. When she stops chasing and lets herself be recognized, things start happening. Now imagine these 2 women swap prescriptions. The generator sits and waits and stagnates. The projector hustles harder and burns out, both following genuinely good advice, both getting worse. Same starting point, opposite medicine. The difference is design. At the very highest level, there are 4 ways of moving. Your design report, the one you get when you work with me, tells you which is yours, plus all the nuance underneath. But here's the map. Generators, builders move by responding to what lights them up. They force when they initiate from the head, pushing into things because they should with no genuine response behind it. Manifestors move by informing, then initiating. They're the rare ones actually built to start from nothing. They force when they wait for permission they don't need. Projectors move by recognition and invitation. Their gift is seeing systems and people clearly. They force when they chase and hustle. Reflectors move in the right environment given time. They force when they rush the decision. Find yours, then stop forcing the others. Because here's what I suspect is true for a lot of you. The drain you've been feeling isn't your life being wrong. It's your method being wrong. You've been running someone else's operating style on your machine and wondering why it keeps overheating. This is very high level. Your report goes much deeper, and it's exactly the kind of thing we work through properly together. But even at this altitude, one insight lands for almost everyone. You now have a clearer picture of your best move and your worst one. 3 questions. Same rule as before. First honest answer, not the polished one. What advice have you been following that doesn't actually fit you? Where are you forcing rather than flowing? What strengths have you been overlooking because they came too easily to count? That third one deserves a word. We're trained to value what's hard. So the things you do effortlessly, the thing everyone comes to you for, you've probably filed under doesn't count. It counts. It's usually the biggest clue to your design that you own. One more layer, and then we act. Because a diagnosis and a design still leave one question. If you can now see all this, why haven't you moved already? 2 fears. They quietly trap intelligent, capable people, and they work as a pair. The fear of change keeps you in discomfort. Change feels risky. You've built a career, a reputation, a family, a lifestyle, and something in you whispers that touching any of it might bring the whole thing down. So you negotiate with yourself. It's not that bad. Other people have it worse. This is just adulthood. The fear of staying the same keeps you restless because another part of you knows. It surfaces at 3 a.m. or on the Sunday night drive or in the flat feeling after another fine week. So instead of choosing, we hover, we tolerate. We drift somewhere between dissatisfaction and disruption, and living between those 2 fears is exhausting. I know it from my own life, not from a textbook. And here's the cruelest part. The autopilot effect keeps both fears invisible. You don't experience them as fears, you experience them as being realistic. That's why awareness has to come first. You cannot interrupt a fear you haven't named. So how do you get out? Not by thinking harder. You don't think your way out of fear, you act your way out. Insight alone changes nothing. You can understand a fear perfectly and still be run by it. Action is what retrains it, because action gives your nervous system new evidence. Your design even shows where your particular fear tends to sit, and the gift waiting on the other side of it. That's in your report. But, and this is the sentence that ties today together, the action has to fit how you're built. The right action walks you through the fear. The wrong one just confirms it. The projector who hustles at her fear hits resistance and concludes she was right to be afraid. The generator who forces initiation drains herself and concludes she hasn't got what it takes. Neither was short of courage. Both took the wrong medicine. Diagnosis tells you where to act. Design tells you how. That's the whole session. Last one, and it's the big one. Which fear is louder for you right now? The fear of changing or the fear of staying exactly as you are? There's a question inside the balance reset that gets at this. How would it feel if your life stayed exactly as it is for the next 5 years? When I asked myself that question last year, the honest answer was not a good place. And that answer is a large part of why I've done everything I have since to move from where I was to where I am today. Sometimes the fear of staying the same is the most useful thing you own once you've named it. Here's your action, and there's only one. One small shift this week. 3 criteria aimed at your weakest pillar. The one you wrote down 20 minutes ago, not the comfortable pillar, the leaking one, taken in the way your design actually moves. If you're a generator, pick the option that gets a genuine yes from your gut. If you're a projector, make it visible and let the invitation come. Right action, right method, and not an overhaul, a realignment of focus. If your shift takes more than 15 minutes a day, it's too big. Shrink it. Small, grounded steps beat grand. Disconnected leaps and small shifts now prevent years of drift. That's it. One pillar, one shift, your way. So your 2-minute homework, and it's the same instruction from the start of the session. Take the balance reset, balance.ai reset, balance.ai/reset. Your flow score is the baseline. Everything this week builds on. Tomorrow we simplify. AI, your tech stack, and what stays uniquely human. How to hand the machines what they're good at so you can keep what only you can do. It's the session I'm most excited to deliver all week. I'm Laurel. This is balance, clarity, progress, flow. See you tomorrow.